There is a plant that produces 100 tons of biomass per acre every single year. It regrows to full height in 4 weeks after cutting. It mines nutrients from 10 feet underground and concentrates them in leaves so rich they outperform commercial fertilizer. Plant it once, and it feeds your soil for 20 years without replanting, without chemicals, without cost. Victorian farmers called it the solution to starvation. By the 1950s, one man bred 21 varieties and gave them away free to anyone who asked. Then, in 2001, the FDA issued a warning, and within 5 years, this plant vanished from every garden center in America. Today, the global fertilizer industry generates $230 billion annually, selling farmers nitrogen and potassium this plant produces for free. This is comfrey. The plant they made illegal, and the war to erase it reveals what happens when nature threatens profit. Welcome to Lost Nature Archives. The archive opens in 90 AD. Greek physician Dioscorides documents a plant with sticky mucilaginous roots in De Materia Medica, the text that remained Europe's primary medical reference for 1500 years. He prescribes it for broken bones and torn flesh. The Greek name symphytum literally means to unite, to grow together. The Romans tested the claim. Pliny the Elder boiled comfrey roots into paste and used it to stick pieces of meat together. The adhesive held firm. For 2,000 years across Europe, people called it knit bone, bone set, bruisewort. But the plant's true power had nothing to do with medicine. In 1845, one man discovered what comfrey could actually do. It would change everything about soil fertility forever. Henry Doubleday was a poor Quaker living in Essex when the Irish potato famine struck. 1 million people starved to death while he watched helpless from across the channel. He had tried manufacturing starch from potatoes. The business failed. He tried producing glue for the new postage stamps. That failed too. But the images of mass starvation burning across Ireland never left his mind. In the 1850s, while still searching for natural glue sources, Doubleday wrote to the head gardener at the Royal Palace in St. Petersburg, requesting seeds of a specific Russian comfrey variety known for its mucilage content. The package arrived. He planted the seeds. But fate had intervened. The plants that grew were not pure Russian comfrey. They were an accidental hybrid cross exhibiting what geneticists would later call hybrid vigor. Traits neither parent possessed alone. Doubleday had stumbled onto something unprecedented in agriculture. The hybrid comfrey plants produced yields no one had documented before. Estimates suggest 100 tons of green material per acre annually. 5 cuts per season. 4-week regrowth cycles. Doubleday abandoned the glue business entirely. The Irish famine had shown him what mattered. Feeding people. Preventing future starvation. This plant could do both. He spent the next 30 years meticulously researching comfrey's potential as food, animal forage, and most importantly as a revolutionary soil amendment. He measured yields, documented nutritional content, recorded seasonal patterns, tested every application. He died in 1892 at age 92, still poor, still devoted to the plant he believed could feed a hungry world. And then tragedy destroyed everything. His family burned all his research notes, 30 years of yield data, cultivation techniques, nutritional analyses, varietal comparisons. Gone. Incinerated. The full extent of his work vanished into ash and memory. For decades, comfrey cultivation declined as the Industrial Revolution transformed agriculture. Mechanization arrived. Chemical fertilizers emerged. Farmers forgot about the poor Quaker who had achieved 100 tons per acre with nothing but deep-rooted perennials and a spade. The knowledge seemed lost forever. In 1948, A young British horticulturist named Lawrence Hills discovered Henry Doubleday's forgotten story buried in agricultural archives. He decided to finish what the Quaker had started a century earlier. Hills founded the Henry Doubleday Research Association, gathering comfrey strains from across Britain and beyond. He grew 21 different varieties side by side in controlled trials, recorded every measurement, tested every claim, documented what the fire had destroyed. By the early 1960s, one strain dominated every single metric. Bocking 14. It was sterile, producing no seeds, meaning it could never become invasive. It resisted every disease. It delivered the highest nutrient content of any comfrey Hills tested. Most importantly, it produced reliable, massive yields year after year on the poorest soils. Then Lawrence Hills did something the fertilizer industry could not comprehend. He refused to patent Bocking 14. Instead, he mailed root cuttings for free to anyone who requested them. Gardeners in England, farmers in Africa, experimenters in America and Australia. By the time Hills retired decades later, Bocking 14 was growing on 6 continents, spreading through networks of gardeners who understood what it represented. Laboratory analysis reveals exactly why this plant terrified the chemical agriculture industry. Fresh comfrey leaves contain potassium levels far higher than farmyard manure. While manure rarely exceeds 1.5% potassium, Bocking 14 delivers over 7%. Nitrogen content rivals expensive blood meal. Phosphorus levels match bone meal, but the decomposition rate represents the real revolution in soil fertility. Most green manures like alfalfa, clover, grasses require weeks in compost piles before releasing their nutrients. Comfrey's extraordinarily low fiber content means soil microbes devour the leaves in 48 hours. Toss fresh-cut comfrey onto a stalled compost pile, and within hours the internal temperature spikes dramatically. The material transforms into black, nutrient-rich humus, while other plant matter remains intact and inert. The secret lies deep underground where no one sees it working. Comfrey roots penetrate 10 feet down into subsoil, far beyond where vegetable roots and grain crops can possibly reach. Those roots function as living biological mining drills, pulling up potassium, calcium, phosphorus, and trace minerals from deep geological layers and concentrating them in the leaves above. When you cut the plant, you are literally bringing deep earth fertility to the surface. It operates as a biological nutrient pump running on solar power. By the early 1900s, the world faced a fertilizer crisis. Natural sources like seabird guano were depleted. Scientists warned of global famine. Then German chemists Fritz Haber and Carl Bosch invented the process to synthesize ammonia from atmospheric nitrogen. The Haber-Bosch process saved the world from predicted starvation, but it addicted global agriculture to fossil fuels forever. Today, the Haber-Bosch process feeds half the human population on Earth, but it consumes staggering quantities of natural gas and generates massive carbon emissions. The global synthetic fertilizer market exceeds $200 billion annually. The entire industry depends on farmers purchasing bags of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium every single year. Comfrey threatens that entire economic model at its foundation. You plant comfrey once, and it produces for 20 years minimum. You need no fertilizer inputs because the plant manufactures fertilizer. You need no irrigation after establishment because the 10-foot taproot accesses deep water tables that surface crops cannot reach. You need no pesticides because almost nothing bothers it. And you need no annual purchases. Root fragments propagate new plants for free. If every farmer in Britain during the 1950s had followed Henry Doubleday's methods, the synthetic fertilizer industry would have lost its market foothold entirely. The industry understood this threat, which makes what happened in 2001 appear perfectly timed. On July 6, 2001, the FDA issued a public warning. Manufacturers were advised to remove comfrey products from dietary supplement markets immediately. The stated reason was medically sound. Comfrey roots and leaves contain pyrrolizidine alkaloids, compounds that can cause severe liver damage if consumed internally in large quantities over extended periods. Garden centers saw the word toxic and stopped stocking comfrey plants entirely. Nurseries refused to carry it. No one explained clearly that using comfrey as mulch or fertilizer poses zero risk to humans. No one explained that soil microbes rapidly break down the alkaloids. The result was surgically effective. Comfrey vanished from mainstream American gardening within 5 years. The plant Lawrence Hills spent 40 years promoting simply disappeared from commerce. The timing deserves examination. In 2001, natural gas prices were rising sharply. The fertilizer industry was consolidating into massive multinational conglomerates, companies whose entire business model depends utterly on farmers remaining dependent on annual chemical purchases. And suddenly, the one plant offering permanent fertility independence was declared too dangerous to sell to home gardeners. Meanwhile, comfrey's actual performance has not changed one bit. Bocking 14 still produces 100 tons per acre annually. It still decomposes in 48 hours. It still delivers 7% potassium content. Established comfrey survives temperatures down to minus 30 degrees Celsius. It tolerates extreme drought, thrives on marginal degraded land. And because Bocking 14 is sterile, it never invades beyond where you plant it. Cut the plant when it reaches 2 feet tall, and within 4 weeks it regrows completely. 5 harvests per growing season, 100 tons annually for 2 decades from a single planting. Use the leaves as mulch around vegetables. Make liquid fertilizer that outperforms commercial feeds. Comfrey solves soil fertility without purchasing anything ever again. From 1845 to 2001, 3 forces tried to erase comfrey from agriculture. Time erased Henry Doubleday's research notes. Industrial agriculture erased the need for perennial fertility systems. Regulatory confusion erased it from garden centers. But none changed the underlying mathematics. The fertilizer industry generates billions by selling products farmers must purchase annually. That system relies on you forgetting that fertility can be grown instead of bought. Comfrey cannot be patented. It cannot be genetically modified to force annual purchases. It cannot be controlled because any root fragment regenerates. Lawrence Hills understood this. That is why he gave Bocking 14 away for free. He knew that for comfrey to survive, it had to be decentralized and impossible to monopolize. Comfrey is not extinct. Root cuttings pass between gardeners like contraband. The plant Henry Doubleday found after witnessing famine persists exactly as he predicted. Unkillable. Unstoppable. It is freedom from the supply chain. It is fertilizer that costs nothing forever. And the fact that a $230 billion industry spent 150 years trying to make you forget it exists tells you exactly how valuable it is. If this archive opened something for you, subscribe to Lost Nature Archives and hit the bell. Every like and share preserves what they tried to erase. The next archive opens soon.